Hey, fellow fit vegans, or soon to be ones. It's Florian here, and today I'm interviewing Jack. And we're going to be discussing how Jack gained 20 pounds of solid vegan muscle in the last 6 months. Jack, of course, awesome achievement. Already told you that many times before. Good to have you here. How are you feeling?
Wow, 20 pounds heavier, which is an amazing feeling. I never thought I would be able to say that. So it's great. It's good to be here.
Okay, cool. Awesome, Jack. So let's just dive right in. By the way, how long have you been vegan since already? How many years ago?
Well, was vegetarian for about 3 or so years and then went vegan. So I've been straight vegan since 2016, 5 years. So 5 years vegans plus an extra 3 years vegetarian.
All right, awesome. So you started this program or started working with me, stumbled upon me 6 months ago. Before starting this program, tell me more about how did your situation look like in regards to your body and regards to your effort when it comes to muscle growth and gaining weight?
Yeah. So growing up was a couch potato as a kid. My parents invested in video games for me, and so that's what I did as a kid. So I was never super out of shape, but never super fit either. But then in high school is when I decided to start trying to put more effort into that. And then basically from the beginning of high school all the way up to honestly before this program, I would go really hard for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months if I got lucky. And then something would happen, whether that was a lack of accountability, an injury, just not knowing, and then getting frustrated about what I was doing in the gym. And it was just that cycle over and over again. And then I would never see the result. Oh, I'm sorry.
That works. Cool.
Let me put myself on do not disturb. Okay. It was just that cycle on and on for several years up until honestly this program. Another thing to mention too is that in 2017, I developed a autoimmune disorder that was one that affected my muscles. And so it's called dermatomyositis. And basically in the span of about 6 months, I went from being the most fit I'd ever been at that moment. I was farming, exercising most days on top of that, to in 6 months, not even be able to gracefully let myself down on a push-up, couldn't do a single pull-up. I mean, even just laying down on the bed, I would have to use my hand to lift my head off the bed. Like getting up from any position was a challenge in and of itself. And I dealt with that for several years as well. And then about 5 or so months before joining this program, I started to get back into fitness after my body had started to feel a little bit better after so many years. So I started to do a few push-ups, a few pull-ups, and then I don't know if I ever told you this, but I'm pretty sure I found you through Vegan Gains. I think he had promoted you at some point, and so I had you in my mind for a long time. It's like, one day I want to invest in this guy because I feel like that would be a good idea. And then when I finally felt ready, I looked you up, and even before that we jumped on a call, I was ready to pay whatever other price was to start working with you. And so, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my story, just on and off exercising and then dealing with the autoimmune disorder until now, where exercising straight 6 months, hardcore, seeing massive results, and then not seeing any signs of slowing down with that either. So
we already set some bigger goals for ourselves as well there. So congrats
yeah.
on the achievement. Well done, Jack. We've come a really long and good way so far. So before starting this program 6 months ago, I would tell you that, let's say that is possible, what you're seeing right now. If I would have told you at that moment in time, which I did, do you think that was possible for you?
Yeah, you told me it was super possible. I did not. I mean, I wanted to trust you because I knew you're the expert, and so I was like, okay, if you say so, let's go for it. But I mean, if I had on my own been like, you know what, I want to gain 20 pounds in 6 months of muscle, I would have been, there's no way I would have ever set that goal for myself or thought that was possible, especially on my own. So to see it, it started off a little slow because we're figuring things out. I was figuring out the right diet, getting used to the gym. But then once I started seeing those first few, pounds being put on, I was like, here we go. So I think I was skeptical in the beginning. I wanted to trust you, but I just wasn't sure until we started, 5 pounds. I was like, all right. And then 10 pounds. And I was like, okay, now this is actually happening. So, yeah.
Cool. How did it feel like, when you started seeing those, weight increase, and how do you feel? Let's just jump during the program. How did it feel like to see the first few jumps on your weight, and how do you feel like right now?
Like right now, every time I get a new jump in the weight?
No, right now, let's just during the program, when you saw your first 5 to 10 pounds, let's start there first. How did that feel like? And when you finally saw, wow, my weight's going up decently.
I think that was enough for me to feel like it was possible. It's like those first few pounds where, we started the program, started the diet, started the exercises. It was the proof that I needed to really feel confident in what we were doing. And then, I mean, honestly, every single time I gain 1 new pound, it's always like a huge, like I always jump up and down on my scale, like, yeah, let's go. It's always really good for me. One important thing that we do is we, keep track of all the data, because that's a really great metric to keep track of. Because I think that's one reason why in the past it was discouraging, because I didn't know what to look back on to actually know if I was improving or not. Because sometimes it's hard to tell just looking in the mirror. But when you have it written down, it's like, okay, now we really know we're going in the right direction. So it feels amazing every single time.
And how does your life look like right now compared to you right now being almost 172 pounds and to before when you were 152? What do you see as the main differences between, or how's your life different right now?
Well, I'm definitely stronger. I mean, I love looking back at where I started as far as what I could lift, and it's shocking the difference. I think, I'm when I go to the gym now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so heavy, it's so heavy. But then I realized that I felt the exact same way when the weight was half, like 6 months ago. And so, for obviously I feel a lot stronger. I feel also confident that I am not stuck in this skinny boy body that I've always felt like was an impossible place to leave. It's like I feel like most people, they grow up in a body that they're so used to, they feel like that's the only body they'll ever experience. And so to actually start to break out of that, and you always tell me it's like the body does not want to change it. You really have to give it reason to change. But when it's does start changing with the right program, it's really, really exciting. It's like, oh my gosh, like I have the confidence now to do what I want to do. So yeah.
Most people that are watching this video, they're watching the interview, they think, oh man, I've always been the same way and I probably will always stay the same. Yet you've completely changed yourself, from this skinny boy to now, decently like very fit guy in 6 months. So how does it feel like to see that the previous boundaries that you had in your mind are now completely crushed?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, because it's just like that. It's completely crushed. When you see the results, because it's hard to break out of it, that mindset. And I guess the only way to break out of it is to make those changes to prove it to yourself. And it doesn't. I guess it doesn't take that much proof, because once I started seeing just a couple pounds, and then with my weight, and then also with the weight that I'm lifting, that's enough to be like, okay, let's go another week, and then I increase it a little bit again. Okay, let's keep going another week, and like every increment keeps encouraging you to keep going for it. And then before you know it, you look back to a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, and you're just blown away by the changes in it. So yeah, I mean, I feel completely confident now that every goal that we set is going to happen because I've seen it happen already. So, which is encouraging. It keeps you going, like I said before, I think, I don't know how long the longest I did it before, but only a few weeks, a couple of months, where now it's 6 months and still going. So yeah.
I see this is common, that a lot of the times the goal is not only to get in shape, the goal is also to almost prove to yourself that this is possible. Because especially if it's something that you struggled with for an extremely long time, it's almost that you are mentally in this prison cell that's very hard to get out of. What would you tell a person that is, watching this and thinks, I'm not sure if it's possible for me?
Yeah. I mean, I have people in my life that feel that way, and it is kind of hard to know what to tell those people. I mean, the most practical thing I can tell them is find someone who knows what they're doing to help you along that journey. So, because it's really hard to do it by yourself, especially if you've never done it before or you don't know the process. Like I used to think I knew the process of how it goes. And then I remember I would come to our country calls with like these new ideas. I'm like, hey, Florian, what if I did this? And you always, very politely tell me, it's like, actually, we shouldn't do that for this reason. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. So, Amy, it really comes down to having someone take you along the way, because they know what's going on. They know what to tell you to do. They have the experience and the expertise. And then once you start to see the progress with their instruction is when you really start to feel that confidence, like, oh, this is actually possible. But I mean, it's possible for anyone. It doesn't matter your circumstance. Coming with my personal situation with my autoimmune disease, like I at certain points thought that I would just, be in that physical state forever, where I couldn't do a single push up. My body just always hurt. To think now that I'm doing pull-ups with weight hanging down between, like, on my waist, that is insane. If you told me I was going to be able to do that 3 years ago when I was in the middle of that, like when I was really bad, I don't know what I would have said. So it's possible. It doesn't matter your situation, your health situation. But it's a matter of finding someone who knows what they're doing, such as Florian, and them to take you along the way. And then when you see the results, you're going to know that it's possible. So.
Awesome. So it sounds like with your situation, you told me before the autoimmune disease happened. Then afterwards, you started building yourself up in the fitness to get a good fundament. When was the moment that you realized, hey, look, I want to search for Florian and book a call and see what he's up to? Was this a specific moment, or was it more kind of creeping up over time?
It's kind of embarrassing. Yeah. Well, let's just say I saw a physique on the internet that just really inspired me, and I had been doing some exercises because I knew that 2021 was the year that, I'm feeling good, my recovery's doing well, I want to get back into shape, I want to get into shape further than I had been in the past even. And so it was kind of building that confidence first by myself, like, hey, I can do some push-ups, I can do some pull-ups, I can make the commitment a couple times a week to do this. And then I saw a physique on the internet. I'll just say it was in a K-pop video. And then that was the moment where I was like, you know what? It's time for me to achieve my dreams of being a fit vegan. And then having you in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? This is time. Let me look him up. Let me figure out if he's, taking clients. And that's when I called you. So Yeah.
Awesome origin story. At that moment you saw the video, you had
Yeah.
that motivation, but a lot of people at that given moment in time let fear stop them. What was
Yeah.
it for you that first of all, was it the same thing for you, that you were afraid to maybe go that step, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, really just ripping off the Band-Aid, just putting yourself in a situation where you kind of can't get out of it. Because, sometimes it's like you kind of go halfway in, and you cut one foot in the door so that you have one foot outside of it to kind of retreat when you're ready to be uncomfortable. And so really it's just, what I do at least is I always try to put myself in a situation where it's difficult to go back. So, finding that person to keep you accountable. That's one of the great things about working with you, is having that accountability on a weekly basis, where I have a commitment of, so many workouts, so many calories. And I really don't want to come into that call saying that I didn't do it. I really don't want to do that. And I put myself in that situation of having that accountability to help me do, achieve these goals. So yeah, it's just taking a full leap into it, not kind of making the opportunities for getting out of it as minimal as possible. And just having some faith in it, putting faith in someone who knows what they're doing, following the routines, and once you see the results, now you can do it.
It's almost like you knew intuitively that at that moment that you were that motivated, that you need to make a decision to fully jump into it. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was pretty quick. I mean, the moment I knew I had the goal this year, 2021, to do this, and I figured out pretty quickly I was going to do it alone. And so once I went a few weeks of showing myself that I could show up to some workouts by myself, I was like, okay, that's enough. Let's just go all in with this.
Let's say a person, by the way, I love that decision making, Jack. But let's say a person is in that same situation, has built that fundament for themselves. So they know, okay, they've been semi-consistent over the last few weeks. Yet deep down inside that person knows deep down inside that they're procrastinating. They always say next week, I'm going to do something. I'm going to take it serious. What would you tell that person?
Yeah, well, that's a good observation. I mean, what it is eventually is, the longer you wait, it really is just procrastinating. And if you procrastinate, you're basically telling yourself you're never going to do it. And there's been a couple of times in our coaching calls where I was like, you know what, let's do this thing, but I think I want to be started in like a week, or let's do it in a couple weeks, or let's do it after this date. And pretty much almost every single time you're like, no, actually, let's just start right now. Because the longer you procrastinate, the more likely it's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, I mean, procrastinating is just, I guess, a fear of you failing. But yeah, I mean, what you really have to do is just bite the bullet and put yourself in a situation where procrastinating just isn't an option any longer.
Cool. Love that mindset, Jack. So what would you tell, let's say, Jack, not on that decision not on that moment where you already built that fundament, but what would you tell Jack before, when you were going through that autoimmune disease and you didn't know that there was any hope? What would you tell Jack, the past Jack, at that given moment in time?
What do you mean? What about what? Sorry.
Let's say you would meet Jack right now, that is in the past, or let's say on an alternative universe, that is struggling with the autoimmune disease, and you know that he can do it. you know that he can, you know, if he put himself to it, that there's an end to it, and he's going to achieve the goals he set out for himself. What would he tell that person?
Well, what I would, if it were pre the autoimmune, I would be like, call Florian. He'll help you out. He knows what to do. But in that situation, I mean, I would have to let myself heal before I really did too much. I think if I went back, I might try to add more walking or just anything that I can do physically. What I found that in those situations that it is good to have some level of physical activity. I feel like the more you just kind of sit around thinking that you're healing, you're actually not helping yourself heal in those situations where even if it hurts, like putting yourself in a workout, even if it's just walking up and down the street or anything like that. But I would give that guy hope that there's good things coming, and that, you know, with patience, those goals that you have of building that physique are coming, 100% possible, and you can do it on a vegan diet. And then everyone who's been like, you need more protein, how long are you gonna be vegan for? They're gonna see you with this new physique, and they're gonna be like, wow, what are you eating? It's like nothing but plants. So yeah, that's exciting. It's already starting to happen now. People are really starting to notice. But I think even sometime next year, they're really going to take notice and be like, how'd you do that? It's like rice and beans and some broccoli, stuff like that. So
it's really going to be awestruck if they see you in a few months, Jack.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
So fellow fit vegans, that was it for today's video. Thank you so much, Jack, for your time today. Awesome transformation that you had so far, and looking forward to the next few months if you're absolutely crushing it further. You see those 180, 185 on the scale, absolutely possible. Same as before. So thank you fit vegans for tuning into this interview, and thank you, Jack, for your time today as well. So bye-bye.
Yep. Thank you, Florian.